Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, August 21st, 2023 at 6:02 p.m. and I'll call to order the Freetown Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting being on Zoom, I do have to read the governor's order. So this meeting will be available for in-person attendance and on Zoom on March 29th, 2023. Governor Healy signed into law Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which, among other things, extends the expiration of the provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This meeting of the Freetown Board of Selectmen will be conducted in person as well via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specifically, information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown's website, freetownma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to this meeting may do so in the following manner. Download Zoom and entering the meeting ID below, calling the number listed below and entering the meeting ID listed below, or by going to the link and entering in the meeting ID listed below. Although in-person attendance is available for this meeting, every effort will be made to ensure that the public body can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website and YouTube channel an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right, and we will be doing roll call votes today because we're on Zoom. All right, is that still required, even
Yes.
all the boards here? Okay. I feel like we went back and forth on that one time, but better be safe than sorry. All right, so to kick things off here, agenda item 1. This is the executive session minutes from 8/7/2023. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve but not release the executive session minutes from 8/7/2023.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. And now we have the open session meeting minutes from 7/24/2023 and 8/7/2023. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from 7/24/2023 and 8/7/2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. Okay, agenda item 3. Now we have a presentation and discussion on codification of town bylaws with General Code and Town Clerk Cheryl Estrella. So who's presenting this? Sorry, Zach?
It's going to be a joint effort.
Okay, all right. So Cheryl, please kick it off when you're ready to go.
Sure, great, thanks. For those viewers at home, my name is Cheryl Estrella. I'm the Freetown Town Clerk. I'm here tonight to explain codification. I want to thank you very much for having me tonight, and especially via Zoom. I'm on vacation this week, so I apologize that I'm not there in person. When I initially met with our town administrator, Deb Petty, she had some questions and suggested that I bring this up to the board, and that's why I'm here this evening to discuss, present, and provide an explanation on codification and hopefully answer some of your questions. Local government and staff, as well as the residents of Freetown, need easy access to our municipal bylaws to search and use across a range of applications. Currently, the town of Freetown's general bylaws and zoning law bylaws have never been professionally codified and are currently being updated by myself and maintained by the town clerk's office in a Word document that has been, let's just say, difficult to work with and maintain. While this approach has served Freetown well up until this point, I think it's time that we explore the option of professionally codifying our bylaws, as well as undertake a complete review of the bylaws to ensure that they don't contain discrepancies or inconsistencies or errors or outdated information that could potentially affect enforceability. The codification of the bylaws would be consistent and well organized and easily and fully searchable online 24/7, housed on an online platform called eCode 360, which I believe our current land use administrator and the building commissioner may be familiar with. It's an investment into Freetown's future. Citizens will be able to find and use laws in a comprehensive and up-to-date and understandable format. All the staff members will be able to gather information that they need to answer questions from, citizens of Freetown or other municipal officials. The planning department could provide a clear view of existing regulations and make it easier to determine the impact of proposed changes and amendments on development and growth. The town attorneys or legal staff can draft and amend legislation more efficiently by using the E360 online platform to research similar laws that other communities may have passed. So in order to go into greater detail, I've invited the representative from the company General Code, Zach Dumont, here tonight to help us with their state-specific knowledge. General Code has over 60 years of codification expertise and unique code-centric solutions, making it possible to digitally link our bylaws and zoning codes and other essential content with our own procedures and public service platform. General Code has experience in Massachusetts and currently serves over 3,000 municipalities across the U.S., including 140 here in Massachusetts. Some cities and towns in our area include the towns of Middleborough, Dartmouth, Swansea, Rainham, Fairhaven, the cities of Fall River and Taunton, and I believe newly onboarded are going to be the towns of Acushnet, Sparver, and Lakeville. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Zachary Dumont from General Code.
Good evening. Hopefully you all can still hear me.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Very good. So codification, General Code's been doing it for about 60 years now. And in Massachusetts, we're fairly well known from word of mouth. And essentially the reason is because we've been doing this for so long, we have the established relationships as well as the established skill set to be able to codify a town's bylaws. And can I ask that we skip to the next slide, please? So for the folks at home and those of us in the room who might not be entirely familiar of what codification is, essentially it's the process where we take the existing bylaw material, organize it, give it some structure, and create a system that folks can reasonably understand and peruse when they're looking for bylaw information, but then have a cohesive and unified feel to it so that you can build off of the document over time. And in most cases, what this means is if you have like legislation similar to like 10 or 12 different bylaws regarding dogs, for example, we might take all those individual bylaws and build you one dogs chapter. If you had dogs and other animals, then we might do one animals chapter. But the goal is to take everything that's similar in nature and build specific chapters for that information. Then within those chapters, build out sections and subsections. And all of this language is populated from your existing bylaws, but it's doing it in a manner that's much easier to search and parse through. So instead of calling the clerk's office and saying, hey, can you get me the last 60 years worth of legislation on XYZ topic, I, in my own free time, can go online, can look at the chapter, look at the legislative histories and the adopted information that's contained, as well as all of the language that was adopted at town meeting and approved by the AG. We try to make it simple and easy to access all that data in one spot. Most towns will do codification with their general and zoning bylaws, so it all exists in one place, and making it easier for the town as opposed to having to go from department to department to department to get information and to have questions answered. And really the big why behind this is your bylaws are public records. We expect our citizens to be accountable to them, and we also expect our governments to enforce them properly. So they should be accessible, without question, always available. And we should know that the bylaws that we're asking our elected officials to enforce are valid, that they're viable, that they still make sense in the modern era, but they also make sense within themselves, that we don't in one spot refer to a dog catcher and then in another spot refer to an animal control officer with two different job descriptions in the same bylaw, in the same set of bylaws. So we work to eliminate those complications, get everything together so it makes sense. Chapter 1 down to chapter 200, it's all checks upon itself and all the information is contained where it needs to be. And then as you go through and you adopt new bylaws over time, whether you want to stick by yourself after codifying and handle it yourself, or if you want to continue to work with General Code, we'll advise you on where to insert those new bylaws into your municipal code. So if you had new tax-related bylaws, we would say, oh, well, your tax chapter is chapter 118, and it looks like you're referencing sections A, B, and C and subsections 1, 2, and 3, this is where you might want to craft the bylaw. That way there you're writing sensible laws and it's meeting with the new codified document. So hopefully that all makes sense. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask. But if you could skip to the next slide. There are two main groups of people who are going to benefit from having a codified set of bylaws. That's going to be your public users, whether they're citizens, whether they're developers, John passing through town who has a question about a noise ordinance, and then your municipal users. So when you have a codified set of bylaws, they're accessible 24/7. They're online, in this case through eCode 360. Anybody can access them. There's no special fee that you have to pay to look at them. There's no special login that you need to be able to read the code, go through the individual chapters, and do a basic search of all the material. This eliminates questions as to whether or not it's legitimate or up to date or valid, because as you update your code, all of those adoptive histories are going to be built in throughout the code document. And at the very end, where we contain a history of the adoptive history of previous bylaws as well as new bylaws. You can look at any one of the 138 publicly accessible codes we have in the state of Massachusetts. Almost all of them are going to have either a disposition table or sometimes a code comparison table where it shows you what the previous bylaws were referred to, how to identify them in the current laws, in the current code, and then how you identify new laws that have been adopted, where they were adopted, whether it was an annual town meeting, special town meeting, and when it happened. And then the big thing behind this is, if I'm somebody who is at home, who has a question about why my neighbor's rooster can crow at 4 a.m. and nobody's going to do anything about it, I can go online to look if there's a noise bylaw. I don't have to call the planning department. I don't have to call the building folks. I don't have to call the clerk. I can look, do some research, and then come in and present my case, my problem, whatever it might be. So it's empowering your citizens to truly access and utilize the data that they should already have access to, but in a much more easier to manage way. And then for the municipal users, at least when you partner with General Code, you'll have access to our entire catalog across the entire country. Many, especially in planning and building departments, like to review other planning and zoning bylaws that have been adopted in nearby towns to get a feel about what types of legislation they could or should undertake, depending on what the mood of the town might be. For example, in the state of Maine, cannabis regulations are a big thing, and some towns are licensing dispensaries. After we had 4 or 5 towns put that legislation on the books, the other communities that we work with in Maine can go through and read that with doing it all at their fingertips right on one computer screen. They're not having to look individually at every single code. It's simply there for their view. We also provide a suite of other tools that you can use, downloading copies of the code to Word so you can draft or revise legislation. All of that information will still maintain the structure of the code, so you're not copy pasting. And you can also add items like notes or attachments or documents to the code to enhance it. So if, for example, you were talking about licensing dispensaries in a certain section of town, you can have all of your meeting agendas, all of your meeting minutes and conversations and other documents regarding that discussion added onto your code website. And then when folks look for cannabis in the eCode search bar, they're going to see everything associated with that in your code. So it's benefiting your public by giving them access to their data, and it's benefiting the municipality by allowing them to better leverage the data that they have at their fingertips. And if you want to skip to the 4th slide for me, please. We're going to see in the top left what a code looks like. This is for the city of Taunton. You can go through and see that we break it down. In this case, there's an administrative legislation in part 1. Their code has 3 parts, but you can see the chapters are spelled out alphabetically. And if you click on those chapters and go through, you'll see the different sections and subsections. But if I'm somebody who's brand new to the town of Taunton and I had a question about their emergency management procedures, I could just look at chapter 32, and within a few minutes, I'd get most of the information that I needed. And, excuse me. The way we build eCode is to give you the most amount of information that you're going to need to make it useful for you, but without burying you in data that's probably not going to be helpful. So a couple things. I want you to take a look at the top right photo that says new law and the bottom left photo that says Chapter 10, Board, Commissions, Committees. Anytime a new article is adopted at town meeting, a new ordinance is passed, a regulation, anything that affects the code, the town sends it to us. Sorry, the city sends it to us. We post it there in a special section called New Laws, where you can look at every single new law that was adopted while we're waiting to update the municipal code book. There's still public, it's still public data, so you want to get out there as soon as possible. So we make it convenient so it's right there in one section on the code. But if you were to look within a chapter, so in this case, Chapter 10, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, you'll see where we've also appended that new law at the top of the chapter. So if somebody says, oh, hey, there's a new law related to Chapter 10, they go in that chapter, they can also get the raw text of that legislation right there and read it with the context of what the rest of the chapter says. And then for the two photos on the right, minutes and notes, this just explains a little bit further and shows you how you can add those minutes, agendas, and other notations throughout the code. So I really like the bottom right photo that says notes. You can see where it's nested in. Chapter 70, Article 4, Chapter 70, Article 4, Division 5, and so on. You have the ability as municipal leaders to go in there or have your department heads go in there and say, we want a court case regarding XYZ type of bylaw. Here's the decision that says the town was in the right, and this is how we're interpreting this bylaw moving forward. You put that note in there with any supporting documents, and it gives you a stronger code document and better resources for your community to access when they have questions. Now, if we could look at the final slide, please. We're going to see in Massachusetts, as Cheryl had mentioned earlier, general code, we have 140 completed codes across the state. We have 26 projects that are in progress, and we signed 5 new projects this year. Some of those include Rochester, Rehoboth, I'm forgetting one, Plymouth, Massachusetts. And of those 26 that are in progress right now, we expect 7 of them to be published later this year. Quite a few of them have already been adopted. They're waiting off from a signature from the AG's office before we can publish them, and the rest should be adopted later at special town meetings this autumn. But the important thing is, if you have a question about a code or a type of legislation, the odds are we've dealt with it once before, and we can give you examples to look at. So if you take a look at the 2 blue rectangles, you'll see Bristol County and Plymouth County. We have quite a few communities that if you weren't sure of something or you wanted to do some research, you have folks in your neighborhood that you could go out and just look at. All of these codes are freely accessible. You could reach out to the clerk there, or you could just go online. And we would hope that in codifying Freetown's bylaws that we offer a similar service where it's right there, it's online, it's easily updated and easily accessible. That's the long and short of it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much. One question is, how long would it take to get the bylaws codified?
So most projects range 18 to 24 months. We have the first typically 80 to 90 days where we're assembling the code, doing a brief administrative analysis of the material, and getting the town sign off. Once the town has approved the way the structure of the code is, then we'll start working our way to finalizing a municipal code draft to go to town meeting. The 2 biggest hangups in Massachusetts where we see that 18-month to 24-month timeline is when we complete the draft of the code, how far away are we from your annual town meeting? And then once we get through that, how long is it going to take for the AG's office to sign off and approve the new code? And usually they take the full 90 days. Milton, Massachusetts, for example, adopted, I want to say May or June of this year. Their code is sitting before the AG's office. Once it's signed off, we'll publish and go online. And they were about that 18 to 19 month timeline.
All right, that makes sense. Go.
No, so Selectman Matthews asked timeline, which is one of my questions. My next question is cost.
For a project to do the general bylaws and zoning bylaws for Freetown, looking at what we currently have online, I believe is the 2019 general and zoning compilation, you'd be under $10,000. That gets you a code, a couple of code books, and an online platform, an online code site.
Okay, and then is there a monthly fee associated with the upkeep of this stuff?
There's an annual fee to keep eCode 360 live. It's $1,195 a year, so just shy of $1,200. That keeps the site up to date. If you have questions or training or anything like that that you need, that fee covers that support. The second fee that we bill is for supplementation or supplementary changes to your code. And the way we bill that tends to be time and materials. So if you send us 2 bylaws that need to be updated, we bill the time and materials to code that into XML so we can publish it digitally. Then any paper copies that you might need for your books. And then the difference there being if you sent us like 100 pages, we bill time and materials for those 100 pages. So it always comes down to whatever work additional that you want us to do. Some towns, they might only adopt 1 bylaw every 3 or 4 years. Other towns, they're adopting 10 every single year like clockwork. So you might see a higher average cost. Bear with me just a moment. I did pull some numbers. We looked at 50 towns across the U.S. of your approximate population. An average supplement cost year over year was $2,900, and that was assuming that they had 75 pages worth of code material to adopt. So if you don't think that you're passing 75 pages worth of legislation or bylaws every year, then you don't have to worry about that 2,900 number. We have one town in Maine where they are 1 or 2 bylaws every other year. So for them, they're very small. But if you look at them on the average, because they're a town of 5,500 people, they tend to have a higher sub cost when you look at the average. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect.
So I got a question for you. Working with all these towns, you have them listed here from Fall River, Mansfield, my eyes are going, Norden, Rainham, similar sized towns. Do you know of any grants or like federal funds that would be used or could be used to pay for some of this?
The biggest one that we saw in the last 2 years was ARPA grants. I believe in Massachusetts, those were almost all handled at the county level. We had a few towns where they were able to apply for ARPA. It got approved and we started those projects. Federally, I haven't seen anything new appear. And at the state level, I've been checking every couple months. There's been nothing new that's appeared, but that doesn't mean that there isn't. We just kind of have to check to see what there is from time to time.
Yeah, if there is a change or if you do find something, if you could, please let us know.
Whenever I find something, I send it out to every town that's currently pending a decision to say, hey, new information, take a look, see if you apply. Some communities, they're able to go through with like rural grants for infrastructure development. Bylaws are a type of infrastructure. It's just not as pretty as a bridge would be. So you got to find out what's out there and if it applies. But I'll always let you know if I see something come up.
Truly appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you will take the bylaws as they are today. You will update them for the bylaws that have been passed in the past 5 years that are not included in our current bylaws. You will compile that information first. And then will you give the town your recommendations for how you're going to change it around to meet the most cohesive manner, and then that's what gets approved at town meeting.
Exactly. So what we'll do is if you're ready to consider the next steps, we put together a proposal. We look at all of the current existing bylaws. So I'd reach out to Cheryl to get everything from 2020 through 23 that isn't reflected in that 2019 document. We'd read top to bottom, get a price together for you, and then the scope of work would be building the initial draft of the code, sending that to the town for the town's approval and sign off. Once you're happy with the way the code looks, then we'd go through and do an administrative review of the material to make sure there are no glaring errors or problems with the code that would get it hung up at a town meeting. Then once we have that final version that we think makes sense, we'll give it back to the town for your final sign off. Then that would go through to town meeting for their adoption. And we'd also provide you any adoptive warrants or articles that you would need to get it through town meeting. And then from there, assuming it's approved, you send it off to the AG. Once you get the approval letter from the AG, we print you a couple books and we get the E-code site up and running.
If we chose not to renew on an annual basis, is the document or the format such that we own it and then we could update it ourselves?
So the one thing that I really like to stress on this, because I used to be a town councilor in Newmarket, so of course my question is always, how do I get the best value and protect my citizens' interests? Everything that we codify is your information. Whether you want to keep it with us or not, at the end of the day, it's your info. So if we were to codify with you and 10 years down the road, you said, hey, we're done, we want to go in-house, you call me, I get a little bit teary-eyed on the phone, but we'll send you a copy of the code, PDF, Word document, XML document if you want to handle it in that data format. You just tell us what you need and you get to walk away.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. I am happy to say that over the last 10 years, we do have a 97% retention rate. We find that most folks use the eCode 360. It's a good resource for them to have, and that it's a nominal fee to keep it updated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you. Oh, I'll think about it.
Yeah, that was very informative. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having us. I have to run on to another Zoom.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you.
Enjoy your
All right.
vacation.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach. Have a good night,
Cheers.
everyone.
Yeah, enjoy
Bye-bye.
vacation. That's right.
Cheryl, before you go, do I
Yes.
need for this next agenda item? I think I need you to view the signature.
Oh, yes. The House Bill 3931.
Do you have 2 minutes for me
Yes.
to explain this
Yes,
and sign it?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
College
see the
admissions can
memo.
wait.
Yeah. All right. So we got a memo from Carol Fiola's office stating that the following. So I'm reaching out to inform you that a new vote is needed in the Freetown Home Rule H3931, an act authorizing the appointment of retired police officers as special police officers in the town of Freetown. The Committee on Public Safety recently released a bill with a minor change that clarifies that the service would not be used to accrue time for a pension. This is a standard change for these home rule petitions. However, because it's changed the original language voted by the Board of Selectmen, the change needs to be brought back for a vote. I have the attached language there. So because of that, we have to revote on this. I'm just going to read the revised language. So no further dedications shall be made from the regular compensation of any special police officer appointed under the Act pursuant to Chapter 32 of the General Laws after reaching the age of 65, and upon retirement, any special police officers appointed under this Act shall receive a super, I don't even know what that word is, superannuation, retirement allowance equal to that he would be entitled to have they retired at the age of 65. Okay. I've never seen that word before in my life. Sorry, guys.
Want me to explain it to you?
Yeah, please.
What I read is you have someone who is retired because of a disability.
Yeah.
That's not superannuity.
Superannuity. That's for us.
Superannuity is when you run out your year, when you come to the end of your possible retirement, 80%, so to speak.
Okay.
So what they're saying there is that they can't add on to that to get to a superannuity pension.
That makes sense. Thank you. All right. So with that, I guess I'll entertain a motion to accept this updated language.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes,
Yes.
Selectman Zager,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews.
Yes. All right. And then we're going to sign now. And there's a bunch of different copies here, it looks like. Superannuation. That's how they wrote it there. It's just a tongue twister for me today.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Present to you, signed copy.
Waiting for this forever.
Thank you.
All right. So that's agenda item 4 taken care of. So now, Mr. Sullivan, would you like to? So next up here is Conservation Commission Chairman. Just going to give a little report on some ongoing enforcement issues.
Is the mic on?
Yep.
Good evening, Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. I'll start out giving you the wetland bylaw in a nutshell. Wetland bylaw protects all wetlands in Massachusetts, and it sets a barrier of no less than 100 feet from any wetland. If you're working in that area, you're just to come before the Conservation Commission, file what they refer to as a notice of intent and a plan for what you want to do, and the commission then carries out their duties of holding hearings and carrying out what they're supposed to do to protect the bylaw, protect the wetlands. What you're filing is a notice of intent. If the commission learns of some activity which violates that law, then the power is given to the commission to issue an enforcement order. And the enforcement order is, hey, you have to come in, you have to file, and carry out your responsibilities under the law. It does allow, if someone does not abide by the enforcement order, for fines to be imposed of up to $300 per day. So in the past, we have had very few. And I believe I've been on 8 years now in the Conservation Commission, and I can only come up with 3 where we have ever happened. I'm aware that the past chairman has at times probably spoken to people who we've become aware of violating the laws and telling them informally. Unfortunately, it looks as if we may have a problem in the future with conformity to the law. And so, first of all, the commission wants to review their regulations. The regulations have not been amended or reviewed in 16 years. So we're in the process of reviewing those regulations, coming up with a more definite. In the regulations at present, it only states that a $300 fine per day can be issued. It doesn't tell any way of coming to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that the commission has no desire to go out and be issuing fines and having to come down on people. That's not a theory. We're not looking at in the end of the town report we can put in what we collected X number of dollars in fines. We're not at that at all. All we want to do is have the compliance with the law. So we will be coming in with regulations and having a public hearing on those regulations, and then having a more solid foundation about how, if we do issue a fine, how we're going to go about it, why we're going to go about it, and how we're going to progress. One of the issues which I want to have you address is the way you enforce these fines, if you have to, is civilly. So that is going to be incumbent on the town to pay legal fees, the town's legal fees, to pursue any enforcement action that we do take. And my purpose is to say, board, this is it. How do you stand on it? So we're looking at to the horizon, I will admit, in what we have to do. But we don't want to, I want to reiterate, we don't want to go and have to be making fines. But if we do, I want to be able to say the board can go with and take an action. They've talked to the Board of Selectmen about this. They're going to carry out the action that they need to do.
Can I ask the question? What kind of what kind of things are happening? Are people there after hours? Are we talking about people taking 4-inch crabs versus 3-inch crabs?
No.
What's the most common thing that we're discussing fines here?
Really, we don't enforce like water. What the Wetlands Act enforces is actions that you take. Okay, you have a person that has a home, they have a lot. The frontage is mostly wetlands. You have uplands behind. They want to put a driveway to those uplands. What they're going to have to do is file a notice of intent, come in with a plan on how they're going to reinstitute the wetlands that they're destroying. So basically what the law is doing is the background behind the law is that we don't want to lose wetlands anymore. So what they would do is they would come in and say, okay, we want to put this driveway through, and this is what we're going to do to mitigate what we have, what we've damaged. If they didn't, then we go to an enforcement order, that type of thing. So that's really what it is. It's not, so the most, to answer basically what you're really asking is that most of these things that come before the board really have to do with basically septic systems in a lot of the area. My personal, I've twice in the last 20 years, I've been before the Conservation Commission. Once wanting to build a garage, where I was going to build a garage was within the 100-foot area. 2 years ago now, I put in a new septic system. Again, it was within the 100 feet. So you go, you file the notice of intent, you come in with a engineer's plan. If there's to be any changes to the plan, the commission addresses that. But basically, most of these things are basically cut and dry.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for explaining that. In case anybody's at home wondering what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
it's really, thank you. I appreciate it.
So my question, Charlie, is do we have anything that will go off of, right, other existing towns, so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel? Because I agree with you that I think that it's easier for you to have clear sets of examples of what you can go after as far as discipline on someone who decides to clear out a bunch of land that they shouldn't fill in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in favor of that. I'm not going to go out. We're not going to go out and do a drastically different idea.
I know.
And I know. And my own personal, and I know it's been the commission's intent for probably better than 25 years. We're not going to, under the law, you can go out and you can have rules and regulations that are stronger than the actual legislation, the actual wetland bylaw. I'm not in favor of that at all.
No.
And so whatever we do, my own personal opinion is that I would like to see it where people realize that you want to do the right thing to begin with. And that way it makes it a lot easier for everyone. Like I said, in my 8 years on the board, I believe it's, like I said, 8 years, we have had 3 enforcement orders. And usually when you have an enforcement order, the people come forward promptly and they rectify the issue. But that's not always going to be the case.
So I guess I'm sorry, I should have been a little bit clearer. As far as not to say, okay, I know it's 100 foot, and I'm not saying, okay, you're trying to go to 150 feet. I guess more of you're coming to us and saying, okay, we have an issue where someone cleared the wetlands and they're not doing what we've asked them to do. So we want to be able to go to them and say, listen, this is the enforcement order that's a little bit clearer than just up to $300 a day, right? So I guess I'm just saying, do you have any existing towns that have the stuff in place a little bit more for you to go off of?
Okay, I have not seen any online regulations that have explicitly set fines. But my view is if we have to go to a civil action, we go before a court and we have strong, articulate enforcement barrier or parameter, that's going to be a lot easier to be successful
Absolutely,
in that
yeah.
than if we said, all right, well, we have this 300, but we decide with this person we're going to do 200, and with this guy it's going to only be $25 because what my own opinion is I don't want to see that because then you're now in terror for.
Yeah. Victoria has something, I think, too. So sorry, not trying to cut you off because that was you. So.
Yeah, so Victoria Alfaro, Planning and Land Use Administrator for the town. So to build off what Charlie said, as far as looking at enforcement policies of other towns, so I did take a look into that and I presented a draft at the last conservation meeting for a draft enforcement policy to update what we currently have in our regulations. And I did take a look at other towns and I wanted to make sure we kind of kept our, the commission really likes to work with people, right? So we really wanted to keep that and put that in the enforcement policy to kind of do informal enforcement first. And then if no results are being brought, then to go to a more formal route and issue an enforcement order. We did decide, like Charlie said, to take a look at the entire document of our rules and regulations because it hasn't been updated. So we did not vote on this, but at some point we will update our policy.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So I guess the bottom line, what I would like to see the board do is show basically a vote that where we understand what the commission is doing, and so so we're not coming back to you and say, hey, I mean, I as chairman, I would say if we have to go to an enforcement order, you're going to be advised that we're going to have to take legal counsel. But I'm talking not only short range, but I'm talking long range. I'd like to see a policy where this board of selectmen says, yes. We understand what the commission has to do, and we're on board with it.
Yeah. I mean, is that a vote you'd like to see today or saying, or after the analysis?
Well, that would be up to you what you actually do. But I would like to see if we can, in the very near future, come up with the support.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that because I think, to have us, I think as a board, I don't like speaking for everyone, but we never want to micromanage, right? You guys are doing a great thing and that's great. But if we could just see the language as to what, so that way we have something, so we're not just voting out on something kind of blindly.
Right.
As far as spending money, right? I don't want to say, okay, yep, because it's to me, basically you're saying, well, we don't need the board's approval for every enforcement order, right? And that could be legal enforcement order. So I just want to know, I think, and trust me, I truly appreciate your approach as to what you're saying when you say we're not out to try and go after everyone and we want to be informal at first. I love that. We're trying to work with people, not against them. And so. And
I think what it comes down to, right? So say if the commission finds that enforcement is appropriate in a certain situation, but then since it's the town's council that would be, if we disagreed on it, then we would, then it gets messy, right? And I think what you're saying is we want to avoid those kind of situations, right? So that there's a policy and we're all on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a solid wall, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And I'm just saying I would like to have some terminology in front of me to know exactly what I'm voting for.
Yeah, no, I think that's,
right.
Rather than just being half.
Sounds like Victoria already has something in place.
Yeah, there's no vote.
So, yes, we have in place at the present time rules and regulations which have been approved or done through the statute. But like I say, they're unclear as there's no found where, okay, if you start in this matter, or these days, it's going to be so much. If you don't respond within a time period, it's going to be more. That's what I think we need to do so that we can show any court of law that we're being fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Impartial,
And
yeah.
impartial, and it's everywhere. And that's it. But right now, the regulation isn't that way. I have no problem. You want to see the regulation after we would have to have a public hearing on the regulation before we would actually be able to institute it. So, if you want to see the regulation after we've had the public hearing, we've actually solidified them. That's no issue.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then we'll put a vote on the agenda for that.
certainly.
Just to support and just to.
Support them,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it.
Thank you, Victoria.
Okay, so I think we're gonna skip on agenda item 6. Now we have a discussion on the placement of retired K-9 Officer Coda. So I guess first I have a statement I'd like to read related to this. So good evening. There's been a lot of information and misinformation released surrounding the retirement of Police Dog Coda. I want to take a moment and clarify the major points and what led to the decision to retire the dog. I want to know we reviewed all the information surrounding the K-9 program and did not make this decision lightly. The main reason we began discussing ending K-9 program was due to Sergeant Long's pending promotion from patrolman to sergeant. A sergeant's primary role is to supervise and support patrolmen on their shift. If a sergeant was also the K-9 officer, they may not be able to supervise or assist their patrolmen in the event that a call came in during their shift requesting the assistance of the K-9. Additionally, another officer may need to be called in on an overtime basis to backfill for the sergeant. Coda, the police dog, being 7 years old, is too old to reassign to a new handler, and it was decided that he had be retired and that Sergeant Long would be offered the dog. Per the CBA, Sergeant Long has been offered Coda at no additional cost to him. The town is asking Sergeant Long to sign an agreement that transfers ownership of the dog to him. The agreement merely calls for him to acknowledge that he understands and is aware of the current physical condition of the dog, and that he's aware of the dog is a trained police dog, and that he accepts any risk that may come along with owning such a dog. The agreement goes on to state that Mr. Long will assume all of the costs and responsibilities of owning the dog, and that he will hold the town harmless for any claims that may arise from the dog in the future. These provisions have been included to protect the town and its taxpayers from legal liability in the event that any incidents occur after the dog becomes Sergeant Long's personal property. On the agenda tonight is to approve the agreement between the town and Sergeant Long. We have copies of the agreement if anyone would like to have those to review. So I know, there's been a lot said online. Just want to get that out there. So I guess next step here is, to vote on the placement of retired Coda. I think, the board, this seems like an obvious decision. It's right. It is Sergeant Long. But, have we got to a place where we agree on the terms here?
I don't know, not that I am aware of.
Please come up.
Hold till the next, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to hold till the next agenda item or talk about it in this one, whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, I think we can have the conversation now, and then we can,
I don't know how much, I don't want to get too much involved without the union president. Sergeant Connell is here as my union rep when it comes to that. In regards to this agenda item, all the things that you mentioned about as a sergeant working a dog are things that we tried as a union to discuss with you guys. I think it's something we could have worked out. Unfortunately, you guys weren't too willing to do any of that. In regards to the agreement, the union attorney is advised that there are several items in there that exceed the language of the collective bargaining agreement. That was provided back to Attorney Fair for a discussion. I was advised by the union attorney, trying to juggle this and sergeanting. I was advised by the union attorney that the response from the town was that if I don't sign this agreement as it stands, I would be forfeiting my right to take Coda and maintain him as part of my family. Obviously, that runs into an issue with me if the union's telling me that I shouldn't sign it and I should file a grievance. But what happens if I, don't sign it? What do you do with the dog? He is technically your property as much as he's a member of my family. He is town property until we sign that. In regards to number 5, I believe was the biggest concern from the union attorney. He had been trying to reach out to Attorney Fair to address that particular item, that number, whatever it is you want to call it. And as of right before Sergeant Collin and I came down here, Sergeant Ashley, the union president, advised that they hadn't heard anything back from the town. So I guess I'm just inquiring with you guys how we should proceed with that.
I think Town Council, Joe Fair is on Zoom here, but I think number 5 is the most important paragraph to the town because it indemnifies the town
Right.
and protects the town. If you have handled this dog, you are in control of this dog. If you mishandle this dog and you assume ownership of it and you mishandle it, the town can't be responsible for that.
Right, of course.
In that paragraph, and I'll read it, it says, Thomas Long hereby agrees to release, defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the town from any and all actions, causes of action, claims, suits, or demands for property damage or personal injury, including payment of reasonable attorney fees arising from or in any way relating to his ownership, care, or handling of the police dog, or the activities, actions, behavior, or misbehavior of the police dog. This provision shall survive the death of the police dog. So that's just saying, once you take ownership, you take the liability risk with you.
Right. So I don't want to speak for Attorney McDonald, which is our union attorney, because obviously I'm nowhere near an attorney. But I think the concern there, from what I understood from them or from him, was that the language in there about the attorney fees, if somebody were to sue me, I don't foresee Coda biting anybody he's not supposed to, but say he does and somebody sues me for that and then finds out that he's a retired Freetown police dog and goes after you with that wording in there about reasonable attorney fees or whatever it says, does that now come back on me to pay town attorney fees because you're not liable and I'm accepting all responsibility for him? And I think that was the clarification we were trying to receive up until today that we hadn't got yet.
Yeah, Attorney Fair, if you speak to
valid
that.
point. I want to know too.
That was the concern of the union.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Right. And then I know there were some other things that he had struck out too that we were just, trying to get clarification on before tonight.
Is
Attorney Fair on there?
He's on you.
Are you there, Attorney Fair?
Joe, I think you're muted.
And also just a heads up.
There we
everyone.
go.
Yeah, please, Attorney Fair, we have 5 minutes and then we'll have the public hearing, but we can come back to this after that.
You can always stop that opinion.
It's got to be on the time. That's why.
All right, please,
As you know.
Attorney Fair.
Right. So there was an initial email that I received from Attorney McDonald. I received that back on August 15th. I subsequently responded last week after a conversation with the town administrator. I have not heard in which, and I should back up a step, he was looking to strike out of that agreement sections 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. And then a revision to 6, which the revision was related to the release language. My email back to him, I indicated that essentially much of what he was striking was just basic acknowledgement statements from Sergeant Long that what he was receiving was a dog that was a trained police dog and that there were certain, inherent risk in that. And also that he was accepting the dog essentially as is, that the town wasn't warranting its condition or its health or what have you, and that he was responsible for all obligations, financial, feeding, care, et cetera, going forward, as well as the release language that the town administrator just read. I sent that email response back to him. I've not received any email or voicemail or any other communications from Attorney McDonald since then. So to my knowledge, no one has sought me out for any kind of clarifications in response to my initial response back that those strikes were not acceptable to the town.
Okay. So what do we do here? Bit of a pickle.
Can we add language to it, Attorney Fair, saying, releasing Mr. Long, or Sergeant Long, sorry, from any town liabilities as far as attorney fees? That's the concern there. And I get that. He doesn't want to pay for what the town might be incurring. I don't think anybody would want that. Is there something that we can add to the language, or that's already covered in there, in your opinion?
Well, the way I would read this is that, like, it's now just like if your dog bites anybody, right? Your homeowner's insurance, it's transferring that liability to your personal homeowner's insurance instead of the town's, liability. That's what I think what would happen here, right?
I would imagine so, but
Yeah.
obviously when our union attorney says that there's an issue with it, I have to rely on his legal knowledge of that. In regards to, I assume all the highlighted stuff that I can see is everything that he proposed to be struck out from that, which is more of a union issue. This is obviously an interesting position this is an agreement with me, not as a sergeant or as a union member. It's as an individual, but I'm also represented by the union, which is obviously why Sergeant Connell's here. If the union attorney feels as though that language exceeds the contract, I'm in a weird spot. Here's what to do. I don't know if if I file a grievance or I don't sign that, what do you do with CODA in that meantime while I do a grievance? I don't know. I'm not willing or I don't.
I think that's the discussion, right? And I think we're in the process of looking for adoption agencies that will take the police dog if you don't take the dog. I think the short-term solution would be the dog would go into the kennel where you kennel him when you will go on vacation and you just came back from a vacation, you stayed at a kennel. The short-term solution would be that dog goes into a kennel until this can be resolved, or we place him with an adoption agency that takes the retired police dogs.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's if I don't sign this, you take the dog, even though it probably violates our contract.
No, I think
Well, it's a personal contract with you.
Right, I understand that,
It's
but
not the
you're affording me this right to take him as the dog because of my previous assignment as the canine handler, which again brings me back to why we're in the weird spot as to, I understand this is an agreement with me, but it's because of that contract language.
So, Joe, do you have any input on what he's saying, that if the dog bit his neighbor, say, and then they sued and they came after the town, whether he's saying that we're saying he would have to pay the town's attorney fees?
It didn't say that.
So, yes. So the language he's referring to, which is just one of the provisions that was stricken, is the one that the town administrator read. There's a portion in there that it's basically saying that in the event that something happens with the dog and somebody files suit and learns, for example, that this was formerly a town of Freetown canine, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that somebody would include the town as a defendant, even though the town has not been the owner of that dog for however long since the ownership was transferred. And so in those situations, and typically in an agreement like this, we're drafting it to protect the town so that if somebody decides to add the town, you'll file a motion to dismiss to get you essentially taken out of the case as a party, since you no longer have any responsibility or connection to the dog. But that in itself, when you're filing a motion to dismiss and filing appearances, et cetera, in court, can cost the town some money. So the idea here behind the language is to, have Sergeant Long essentially say he's taking full responsibility for that and will essentially hold the town harmless, which would include any payment of attorney's fees that the town incurs as part of that. That's what that language is doing for the town.
Okay. I mean,
Joe, if
I'm willing to
strike that,
budget. I mean, that's not how I read it, but if that's what the intent is here, then I think that we should change
just
that.
this one clause that says including payment of reasonable attorney
Yeah.
fees, not the rest of it, because the rest of it is extremely important.
Yeah.
But is that something that you would sign then?
I mean, I would still like to have the rest of it reviewed by Attorney McDonald. He is our attorney. That's what I pay union dues for. I mean, if he's okay with that, then
He already said that you shouldn't agree to 5 of these.
Yeah.
right. And I
This
mean,
whole agreement, basically, he
right.
said.
And that it all exceeds the language of our CBA. And again, this is what puts me into this weird position.
Well,
I
think you're still being paid 5 hours a week just to feed the dog, correctly?
4,
Additional
yep,
4
which I
hours
take as
at
comp time.
and a half.
I take as comp time, but
time and a half, right?
Yep.
So you take 4 hours, but you get 6 hours of comp time?
Yep.
Every week, and this has been going on for 2 months now, almost. So I think it needs to be resolved pretty
I
quickly.
agree. I mean, I think a little discussion at the beginning of all this could have went a long way to avoid these and this kind of last minute 0 hour, sign this or we take your dog type thing that's been going on.
This was on the last, this
discussed this with you, and Carlton discussed with you a handful of times. In fact, you and I personally discussed it on the phone.
So I didn't find out. Yes.
Hold on. Let me get that out. All right. And things happen, right? You got married to a beautiful woman. You went on a honeymoon. You were away, right? Like, none of these things happen while there were life events going on in your world that kind of prolonged this. So it's not really last minute. We've been discussing this since April, May.
I didn't find out till almost in June about this from Chief Abbott. And then we began negotiations. We're trying to negotiations through the union with you guys that went through June into July. I got married at the end of June. We were away in Tahiti when I got this. This isn't. We've been trying. We found out late. We tried right away, and then by the time I find out about it, I was on an airplane. So
I can't blame you for that.
Right.
Well, as you can see, a lot of our attorneys are speaking to each other. Your attorney, our attorney. There's been a lot of dialogue between both. So can it be an instance that they're talking and they're relaying the information to us as needed, but some of the conversation is staying with them? Because when you say, hey, we're trying to do negotiations with you folks, well, that goes right from your attorney to our attorney, and then we get told whether or not that should be the next step forward. Similar to what Attorney McDonald has told you about these things. So we've been working, trying to make sure that CODA goes to the right home to you. We don't want them to go to, gosh, I know we don't, to an adoption agency.
No, absolutely
I
not.
don't want that. I want them to go home to the person that loves them the most, which is you and your family. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of things have been said, I get it. It's a very emotional thing. Tough decision, as you know. You and I discussed it firsthand. I think we had like a half-hour discussion about things that we could talk about go moving forward. And this is tough. We all have animals, right? I have a service animal myself, so I know the attachment you grow being with that dog all day. This wasn't hard. This wasn't easy, I should say. Not hard. It was hard. But we're trying to do the right thing here. Like, I know it's not what you want, and I get that, right? But it's the right thing for everybody in the department as well, not just Tom or CODA. And that's, as a sergeant, that's your first name now, right? Sergeant Long, right? This has been rough on everybody. This isn't the first meeting we've had. We've had the executive session one, and we've had a couple of other public meetings that we discuss this openly as to why we're making these decisions, right? I get it. I understand the process, right? But we do need to make a decision as far as what we do with CODA. We want them to go to you. There's no other option in our heads. So if the next step is to go back to our attorneys and kind of re-huddle, let's do that. But let's get CODA to your home. That's the end of the day. 'Cause at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure you want the dog.
There's
right?
no
Without a doubt,
no
right?
other option.
Yeah,
as I tell you.
In our heads, we don't want to give.
But we also don't want to drag it out.
Right.
But what part of this agreement are you willing to forgo? Because that's what he's saying. He's not going to agree to this.
Right.
And without agreeing,
seems
these
so
are
much. It
very
seems so
powerful
basic.
paragraphs.
A lot of it.
I think that's what we kind of have to do. So we have to just go through these one by one and see where we can get
But
to.
he's not going to
So
answer.
if
you
this
tonight.
is something that we're concerned about, the time and a half, right, the comp time, if you want to forego that, like, this has never been about the money for me.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you're willing to forego, so we can allow our attorneys to continue dealing with this and deal with it, then that's fine.
Can we put it?
But I'm worried about a union grievance. Then, Joe, can you chime in on that, please?
Yes. Notwithstanding what Sergeant Long has offered, he wouldn't have really the ability to waive any wage entitlements or FLSA claims. So it's not something, just the law doesn't allow him to agree to that. So even if he agreed to this, it wouldn't prevent him from, not saying he would do this, but it wouldn't prevent him from later filing a claim. So if he's in possession of the dog, then we have to compensate him for the off time caring and feeding and whatnot of the dog.
Right, and like I said, I think if this, I don't know what the selectmen are willing to forego on this agreement, because I mean, the paragraph 2 just is just him acknowledging the dog and the health, and that he is aware of the dog's health and condition and is satisfied. What part of that do you not agree to? I mean, the next one is just saying that you are acknowledged that it's a police dog and it's been trained as a police dog. What part of that do you not agree with? There are very specific paragraphs that I don't think the town in our best interest want to forego that language. The line that you talked about, I could understand that on some level, that caveat, but I think
The rest of it's kind of,
That's what I'm saying. I think it's straightforward. I don't see anything, and
unless we're going to have an emergency meeting for you to come back and reiterate, I think what you need to do is lay out what, if any part of this you're willing to change. Because if you're not willing to change it, it sounds like he's not willing to sign it unless the union attorney agrees to it, and he's not going to agree to it either. I think we're going to come to an impasse.
But it goes back to what's going on with Coda. My concern here, Sergeant Long, you'll be okay at the end, right? Where's Coda going? I want in my head, I'm sure their head as well. It belongs in your household, right?
Right.
How do we get it there?
So at the end, I mean, are we willing to change that paragraph about the attorney's fees or whatever?
I think that is 100% a valid point.
Yeah.
And
right?
then,
but acknowledging that dog was a police dog and stuff, I don't see.
right. So the majority of agreements that I've seen through, obviously I have plenty of friends that are canine handlers that have retired dogs, are a paragraph long. I accept all responsibility, blah, blah, blah. Everything else that's in there, according to our union attorney, is in violation of our CBA. Right. So, but at the end of the day, if you guys are saying, if I don't walk out of here with a signature on that page, then you're taking my dog, then I have no other choice but to sign that agreement.
No, I don't think anyone's saying.
Yeah, look at it both sides, right? Like, I hate to say this to you, but yeah, I'm going to have to. For once, take the emotion out of it for a second. I know it's hard, right? Because it's your loved one, right? That dog. From the town's perspective, we want you to have the dog. We also need assurances that dog's well taken care of. It's in the best interest of you and the dog, right? Then you have the personal side. It's your dog, your family's dog, right? Your kids know it as their dog. I don't want to take that away from anybody. You don't want that. No one wants that. But at some point, we have to make that tough decision, and it stinks that it has to be the sports level. It does. And I'm tearing up because I love that dog. I can't tell how many times I've gotten kisses from that dog. At the same time, we have to make a decision, right? We can't keep prolonging this, but it is gut-wrenching as it is. We need to make a decision for the town and for the dog. At this point, Coda's interests are our number one priority. And in my opinion, in mine alone, and I'm sure they share, but it's my opinion, it belongs with you.
No.
That one sentence, yeah, I think we're flexible to remove that from.
I'm comfortable, because I mean,
that.
at the end of the day, right, like, if the liability is yours, but if it's outside of your control, or someone's suing you and they do bring the town involved, and, we'll have some additional legal fees to really just file, just try to get the case dismissed from the town's perspective, right? But I'm totally comfortable with the town paying those fees. That is just part of the cost of doing business. But the rest of it, I really do not see any issues with it. I mean, and I mean, like these agreements have come from, KP Law, and, they represent a lot of towns. I'm sure this wasn't just came out of nowhere. I'm sure this is standard operating procedure,
I mean, what do you, in talks with your union, what's some of the stuff that you guys are saying? Like, so is it just as simple as, well, this is what our attorney's saying, so this is what
So
we're
if you
gonna
read the contract, the provision on canine is that the dog, if the town terminates the canine program, the dog shall be offered to the handler at no cost. Mm-hmm. In our attorney's opinion, everything else beyond that is exceeding that agreement or that language provision.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Saying that the transfer of dog, that's exactly what we're saying, though, right? In my eyes, like, we're saying that we're going to transfer the dog. You're getting the dog and the inherent stuff that comes with taking a police dog, right? So I don't see it as being something crazy, and to say that you're taking the dog and its health that it is, and age and well-being, I don't know. I don't.
So say, just to be clear, so if you do sign this today, striking that one line item, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to file a grievance. right?
I don't know if I have any recourse,
But
Trevor,
that's fine.
after
But
that.
so say you
right.
do, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just, so then what, right? So then the grievance process will start, and we'll just have to deal with that. But then, the agreement, the dog will be yours at your house with your family. I mean, I think that,
Joe,
and if
you
we have to
want-
deal with that part of it, if your lawyer thinks that there's a grievance here, then we'll have to deal with that.
The question from the attorney was, our attorney, was that if I sign this, is there the ability to file a grievance? And he didn't believe that there was because I was agreeing to it. And that was coming from our attorney.
Yep.
So, which brings me here tonight, obviously, right back to where we were. I mean, listen, if you guys are saying that this is the agreement, right? We'll strike that line, and this is what needs to be done to make sure he doesn't end up in an adoption agency or wherever else. And obviously, I'm going to sign it.
Yeah.
I just think it's fair. I right. I mean, because honestly, I'm a very easygoing, fair guy. I've been very pro police. I've been, all along, right? We've done everything. I say I never use the term I when we're talking about a board. We as a board have been very pro police and trying to do stuff to work with you guys. So don't take this the wrong way. We're just simply saying we agree with you on that one point. The rest of this stuff, not so much. I mean, I think sometimes there's certain little things that get pulled into it and people can read it however they want, but I don't know. It's just
Well,
my
my
two
concern is
cents.
this: he let's say he signs this, right? Begrudgingly or not, he signs it, and there is a grievance filed. What happens to Kilda during that grievance process? Like,
That's what I was saying. I think that's
If he signs it in the grievance, you can talk to Joe Fair, but I believe the dog stays with him. I mean, I don't think we'd pull the dog.
No, I'm
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that's.
That was my next question anyway.
Again, the personal thing versus what we're trying to do is this isn't the most ideal situation on either side, right? You can imagine that, right? But we do want the one thing we're all saying the same thing is we want you to have the dog, right?
Yeah.
I think we can all agree to that. I think that's probably the one thing that we solidly agree that Coda is the Long family's personal property moving forward, and this is your dog for you and your family to enjoy, right? At the end of the day,
I hope so. Yeah.
I know that's what I want. Again, I can't speak for them, but I know that's what they all want as well.
No, absolutely.
So striking that one line out, we agree with you. That's valid. They didn't think about it like that. That's why it's good to have you here and give you your perspective. Everything else, like they were saying, it is pretty boilerplate. After you read it 20 more times, I understand you pay Attorney McDonald, right, to give you his personal opinion as far as what the law says and everything else. So I can't. It's up to you. It's your decision to make. But we want the dog. We want to give you the dog. That's a no-brainer. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we strike that line, are you willing to?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't
All right.
have much of a choice.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Wrong chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I could, I just want to, just for clarification purpose, when you've referenced it as striking that line,
Yeah.
but is it the whole line that you're referring to, or are you referring to just the portion that says including payment of reasonable attorney's fees?
Yeah. Just that part, right? I think that's
Just
where the issue
clause,
is.
just the clause within Section 5 that says including payment of reasonable attorney's fees?
And just to make this extremely straightforward, like what we're saying here, right, is that if Sergeant Long is getting sued, right, for something that, something happened, and the town gets included in that lawsuit, right, we're willing to defend ourselves and just, getting ourselves, trying to get that case dismissed, right? It's not the actual liability of what happened. It's really just the legal fees included in us kind of presenting this agreement and saying that, we're, liability has been transferred to Sergeant Long. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what I'm trying to clarify, because for example, and I'll just take the extreme case that if in fact, the town isn't dismissed and there's some sort of a claim that ends up, or a judgment that gets issued against Sergeant Long, then this provision, if it remains outside, but with excluding the included payment of reasonable attorney's fees, would still protect the town, that he's responsible for whatever those damages might have been to, the person, let's say, that was bit by the dog, not the town. And I just wanted to clarify that we're all talking about the same thing, because I think they're slightly different when we're talking about attorney's fees versus the underlying liability.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying just striking the attorney's fees part of the, and the personal liability that comes with the dog. I mean, I have a dog who's definitely a liability. 100%. I'm aware of that.
I mean, I agree with you that obviously when he gets signed over to me, he's my dog.
Yeah,
He's not
okay.
yours.
I think we're on the
But,
same page.
Okay. Just as long as I shouldn't have to pay your legal bill.
Yeah.
You're not paying mine, so I'm not paying
Very
yours. You know.
valid point, and that's what we're saying. We're trying to work with you, not against you. I know some people think we're like trying to like go at
You're
Sergeant
the board of
Long.
selectmen, yeah, so it happens. But at the end of the
Territory.
so
It's
can we
why
just
we're
have
not
that
big
sent
and
to
pay the
Joe
big bucks,
or
you
Joe
know?
Fair? Have him sent to Attorney McDonald, and then deal. Is that how this works? I don't know.
I think we're crossing off on the agreement. We'll sign it.
Okay. I didn't know if that was something you should scribble out or if it needed to be like actually erased. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
It
mean,
could
we
just be-
have the.
I just need you to, Luann's working on it. Yeah, you ready? You wanna have Tom?
Yeah.
Tom,
All right. Tom, and I know this has been a difficult situation.
This is actually exciting. You just have to initial the line we crossed out.
Whichever line.
Doesn't matter. This is your side here.
Joe Fair, anything else that we need to do?
No, I'm assuming the agreement that you're working with is the sort of final version
Yeah.
that we had previously sent to them.
I don't think we only had one version.
Right. What I mean is
And we just,
not working from the Attorney McDonald's version.
No, and we just crossed out the one little paragraph that says including payment of reasonable attorney fees, and they're initialing that and then
Yes.
signing.
Okay.
Okay, so you got to sign there, initial on the back.
The date would need to be filled in on the front page.
I think Luann took care of that, yeah.
Same thing.
You didn't show and sign for the answer.
You might want one for his record. Two.
I hope so.
Just my signature.
Yeah.
This is your copy. What are you giving me? See, you nothing. Alright.
Oh, I see.
I got a public.
Like the signature all week.
Okay.
Your camera.
We can open that up.
We have one, two, three, it's just a phone. I don't know if this was purpose.
Some of it's got it. Just put it in the file. I'll straighten it all out. This is simply executed.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So now we have a public hearing. Town of Freetown public notice. Notice hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will review and decide whether to vote to accept ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. The draft is available for public review. At the town hall and on the town website. Comments may be submitted for up to 10 days following the public hearing. If you need an accommodations to participate, please contact Board of Selectmen office by telephone, 508-644-2201, or by email at lsuza@freetownma.gov. Public hearing to consider the above matter will be held on Monday, August 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Police Station Community Room, 15 Memorial Drive. And with that, I will open the public hearing. Don't need a vote on that, right? I always forget this one. No vote to open? Okay. And so I did look at this today. Lots of room for improvement. Yeah.
You think?
Oh, blank slate in some cases.
All right. So is anyone here? Yeah.
Yeah, so hi,
Victoria?
Victoria Alfaro, Planning and Land Use Administrator. So our consultants from IHCD should be on Zoom. They are prepared to give a presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, we have David West and Megan, is it Dufresne?
It's different.
All right, please take it over.
So we have a PowerPoint that we'll be sharing.
Great.
Hold on, I have to, 1 second. Go ahead, Megan.
Okay. Okay, so we're here to talk tonight about the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. I'm Megan Dufresne, and my colleague David West is also here.
Thanks, Megan. I'll start with the beginning of the presentation, and then Megan will speak for a bit, and then we'll both be available to answer any questions you may have. As I think you probably all know, IHCD's scope of work was to evaluate program services, activities, infrastructure, policies, and procedures that support program access in Freetown. We evaluated a set of facilities that were agreed to by IHCD and Freetown, and we prepared the ADA self-evaluation, which is includes comprehensive data about the current state of compliance and identifies both issues that need corrective action and gaps in policies and procedures. Next slide, please. Speaking briefly about the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title II of the ADA requires that state and local government entities do not discriminate against people with disabilities in their programs, services, and activities, and that state and local governments take steps to examine their programs and establish a plan for compliance with the law. Next slide. As part of the evaluation of programs, services, and activities, we submitted some summary reports, and the Part B report summarizes our findings of Title II compliance. Title II is what applies to cities and towns, and is why we're working together. The information pertinent to the assessment was obtained from an online survey that was returned by someone from 8 departments in Freetown, also from our examination of the town's website and from other conversations with town employees. Next slide, please. In terms of key findings, looking at responsibilities of the town is supposed to designate a responsible employee to handle ADA issues, and Freetown has met that obligation by appointing an ADA coordinator, which is excellent. The town also needs to have a grievance procedure, and the town does have a grievance procedure for members of the public if they feel that their rights or access to programs and services and activities and that kind of thing are not in compliance under the ADA. The town also needs to have a notice, and from the responses that were submitted with the questionnaire, it sounds like the town does not post the non-discrimination notice, the ADA non-discrimination notice, everywhere that the public seeks information. So it should be posted in a prominent location, such as a bulletin board or something along those lines in key public buildings. It would be a good idea to include it at the notice at the base of things like job notices with the town, and when announcements go out about town meetings and all those things, so that members of the town know that the town of Freetown is actively trying to comply with its responsibilities under the ADA. Next slide, please. In terms of reasonable modification of policies and practices and procedures when requested, happily, there is no evidence that the town was unable to provide a reasonable modification. However, survey respondents were not aware of a formal process or a department-specific reasonable modification process. So efforts should be taken to inform appropriate town employees in different departments that the that the town, the procedure that the town will take to seek to respond to modification requests. There's also no evidence that the town failed to provide a reasonable accommodation to its employees. So here we're thinking, again, about employees rather than just general members of the public. However, 3 departments left the question about the employment policy blank, which suggests to us that perhaps they're not aware of the reasonable accommodation process for employees, or could perhaps use a bit more training about that. Effective communication with auxiliary aids and services from the questionnaire and the responses received. It seems that it would be beneficial to clarify procedures related to effective communication. And I should add that if Freetown would like a training about that, Freetown could contact the New England ADA Center, which is a project of IHCD, and we could arrange to provide a training to appropriate staff if that would be helpful. Next slide, please. So what was the basis for the self-evaluation? Basically, we looked to 2 standards in the codes. First, the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design, which were effective March 15th, 2012. If things were done and have not been modified earlier than that, we look to the earlier versions of the standards. And we also look to the state accessibility code 521 CMR, the regulations of the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. Next slide, please. With each location and building and so on that we looked at, IHCD has, as you know, submitted a building facility report, which includes basic information about the building, including the location of entrances and exits, the availability or lack thereof for accessible vertical circulation, interior layout and functions in the building, and that kind of thing. And it lays out key accessibility issues that we saw as part of the on-site survey. Next slide, please. With the report, there's also a facility or location catalog. It's a database of records of each building element that is non-compliant with regard to one or more of the applicable accessibility standards. And the report includes a photograph of the issue when it's something that can be photographed. It indicates the floor location information. It says what's out of compliance. It lists the problems, it lists issues and includes measurements when they're appropriate. And it also indicates possible remedies and has cost information. Next slide, please. There are 3 key strategies for remedying an accessibility issue, particularly in a building. They include relocation of program services or activities within the current building to an accessible location. For example, perhaps there's a town office on an upper floor where there isn't vertical access, but if you make it known to the town that either you're moving to a different location in that building, or that if you're contacted, you could arrange perhaps to meet, say, in an accessible conference room at a different floor, providing whatever materials are necessary. That way, the program or service can be made accessible even within a building where not all parts of the building have an accessible route to where the programs have previously been offered. You can also, of course, relocate a program service activity to another facility, another building or location in town that is accessible. And then finally, the town can take steps to renovate the facility that's not accessible to make those areas accessible to everyone in the town. Next slide, please. I'm now going to let Megan take over for a bit, and she's going to discuss what we saw as part of the self-evaluation.
Okay, so with the self-evaluation, I was just going to explain a couple of the issues that we found with pictures. The first slide being town hall, where the first image of the ramp is the entrance to Town Hall, and we would consider this, a very important issue to fix, as its approach and entrance is one of the highest priorities under the ADA. Currently, the ramp is not wide enough to comply with the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, and the handrails are mounted too low. The second picture on the top describes another major issue with Town Hall, is that a lot of the designation signs, which include raised characters in Braille, are not provided alongside the doors. And so with this, the signs would pretty much just need to be relocated, as that's where people who are blind or low vision are kind of trained to feel around to locate the sign. The third image on the top shows another issue that was happened a lot in Town Hall. A lot of the service counters are higher than allowed. So they're higher than 36 inches, so that people using wheelchairs wouldn't be able to use them. And this one in particular, there were a couple like this that are sticking out from the wall, so that these could be a danger or a hazard to people who are blind or low vision, and walking along the wall with a white cane, they could walk into these counters. And so we would recommend a cane detectable barrier, such as a rail or something, that where we give requirements, it just can be no higher than 27 inches above the floor, so that people with white canes can sense the counters. The first image on the left on the bottom just shows one of the toilet rooms. There are no accessible, wheelchair accessible compartments provided in the men's and women's toilet rooms. And the last image shows a stairwell. So as you probably know, there's no accessible vertical route between the first and the third floor. And as David had mentioned earlier, so you're allowed to either relocate meetings from different departments who are located on the second and third floor onto the first floor, where it could be on an accessible route in the building, or we also provided an option where you could add a limited use, limited application elevator to the building, and look into that. And we provided the cost for that option. Then I just have a few examples from outdoor areas. There were a few outdoor areas that had parking lots, but didn't have any accessible parking spaces, such as there's car accessible parking spaces and van accessible parking spaces that are required even in unpaved parking lots like the one that's pictured. The second image on the top shows the Freetown Bandstand, and that lacks an accessible route to it. So we would recommend a lift or some type of a ramp to it. Also looking at this picture, the handrails on the stairs wouldn't be compliant due to the posts. Someone wouldn't easily be able to slide their hand along, and the handrails would also require extensions, that they extend past the last tread and the top tread as well. For program access, for the third image of the bench, we recommend that at least one bench in each area, each distinct area of a park should be on an accessible route. And so this image is just showing one bench at Hathaway Park. And the ADA doesn't consider grass and to be an accessible surface. The final image on the top shows the team seating area at Central Park. And unfortunately, these baseball dugouts are the typical style dugout where you go down a set of stairs in order to get to the team seating area. So we would, the ADA would require that these be made accessible either with a lift or a ramp or something like that. Nowadays people are pretty much rebuilding them to be level as best practice, as the easiest route to go. The first image on the bottom shows a playground. And so playgrounds have greater, the MAB requires greater things than the ADA does with playgrounds. Both standards require an accessible route to the playground that can't be grass. In addition, the MAB requires an accessible route around the playground that's 48 inches wide. It could be a surface such as asphalt or stone dust, but it needs to wrap around the entire playground. And in addition, the MAB requires that the surface leading to each play component, it can't be wood chips. It needs to be a surface such as we recommend. What's it called? Poured in place rubber. It could also be kind of rubber tiles, which don't really age as well as poured in place rubber. So that's the playground. The next image is showing the bathrooms in K.R. Resendiz Park. So these, the toilets would require two grab bars on the side and the rear of the toilet. And finally, the last image shows the exterior of one of the toilet rooms at K.R. Resendiz Park. And all of these toilet rooms would require signage alongside the door that would have raised characters and braille stating the designation. And so in addition to these reports, we've provided a self-evaluation report that includes an executive summary and legal overview. And we've also submitted the catalogs that David showed earlier. We've exported them into Excel spreadsheets so that this can be a living document that the town can update on the right side, the green side, with when they plan to resolve each of the issues, who's in charge of the issues, and track when the issues are all resolved. So the main goals of the self-evaluation and transition plan are that all of the town's programs, services, and activities, when viewed in their entirety, are readily accessible to and usable by people with disabilities. There's a priority of ensuring program access with a goal of equal participation of people with disabilities. The self-evaluation and transition plan provide an implementation strategy with priorities are listed within the spreadsheet as to how we, IHCD, would recommend that you address each issue based on the severity of the issue and kind of the location of the issue. So this implementation strategy could be integrated into town planning and budgeting. And ultimately, the main goal is that all residents, regardless of ability, feel that they know about and can participate in all the town has to offer. And so thank you. And please let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. And I don't think anyone's surprised by some of those findings, unfortunately. You know, it's a very old building and, you know, lots of issues with it. And across town, I mean, the building we're in now, I'm sure Port must have been a lot better for that. But I don't know, any questions or concerns?
No, I do find some of the stuff interesting, right? Where, so I know there's never an easy answer. Some of this stuff does have simple fixes, right? Getting signs put up outside of doors or whatever to help with that. One thing I do like that she brought up is and something that we'll have to talk about as a board and as a town, you know, say someone who comes in for a building and they have a question in regards to permitting, well, getting someone from the building department downstairs, someone up to Victoria who's up in no man's land, right? You know, having the ability so that, that's something that I guarantee is already happening informally, right? But having a formal process in place so that residents come in and they know, they understand, yeah, I'm getting through the front door. I can't get to the second or third floor, but I can have the ability to speak with someone, and having that stuff kind of formally in place, I like the idea of. We have no shortage of work, that's for sure. So yeah, I do appreciate it because it's always good to have it down on paper and show where we're really lacking and give us the ideas that we need to go forward. So.
No, good stuff, especially the parks, you know, around the playgrounds and everything else. Having every children the ability to be able to play together is very important, and that does make sense. I do like those poured rubber mats. You know, they're popping up everywhere, and they are pretty good. And everybody can use them, whether you're in a wheelchair or other assistant or walking like from a cane or a scooter, whatever it is. So being all inclusive is what our town strives to be. So this is the step in the right direction, I should say.
If I might interject, I would also suggest that you get in touch with give a call to the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. I don't know the precise details of it, but I know that they've been testing some different surfaces. And what I mean by testing is they've literally tried some different playground surfaces and left them out in the heat of summer and winter for a couple of years to be sure that they weather properly and that kind of thing. And I think one of their primary objectives has been to try to find solutions that are more affordable for cities and towns. They recognize that the poured-in-place rubber, while it's an excellent surface, it's impact attenuating, so it helps limit risk of injury, and provides an accessible route. It is expensive. Anyway, I would suggest reaching out to MAAB to see if they've approved any additional services that might work for Freetown and come at a lesser cost.
That'd be great.
Thank you for that input.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you have.
Do you have to vote to approve this?
Well, I was gonna say, should I close the public hearing first?
Yeah, I don't
and-
think there's any more information.
Okay. Any other questions we have?
No.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Yeah,
All right. So
thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes,
Yes.
Selectman Zager,
Yes.
Selectman Matthews.
Yes. All right. And then I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan.
A motion made?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes.
Yes.
Selectman Zager.
Yes.
Selectman Matthews.
Yes. And then Victoria, I think you're next on the agenda for the presentation on grant opportunity for ADA improvement projects.
I'm just gonna share my screen. Sorry, 1 second.
No rush.
Okay. Hi, so again, Victoria Alfaro, Planning and Land Use Administrator for the town of Freetown. So following the public hearing and adoption of the self-evaluation and transition plan, we have the opportunity to apply for an implementation grant for a project that is identified in the plan we just adopted. So at the end of last year, as you know, we received the grant to create the plan, which we just adopted. And in the plan, each location that was surveyed, there's a list of projects that will improve accessibility, as was just discussed. So the maximum grant award for this is $250,000. We can improve our grant score by selecting the public accessibility best practice through the community compact, which I will explain further a little bit later. And we can also establish a commission on disability. So we are encouraged to submit multiple applications immediately following our approval of the plan, which is exactly where we're at right now. And we're also encouraged to focus on areas of high usage, so high public interaction, right? So I listed all of the town-owned buildings and recreational areas that were surveyed. So properties that do not have public access or have very limited public access were not surveyed, including the old schoolhouse, which is next door to the town hall. The public does not enter that. We only store files in there. So that was taken off the list. And our other two fire stations were also taken off the list because the public does not typically go there. They'll go and get their permits at fire station number 3. So I also put the cost of the cost estimates of the improvements on there. I do want to note for town hall that does not include the elevator, the cost for the elevator. I just don't know how feasible that would be. You know, we have a lot of space constraints. The expense would definitely be, you know, of course, it's always more than the estimate, right? An estimate's an estimate. So just wanted to throw that out there. So Council on Aging, that does include the cost estimate for an elevator. I think we may also be able to do a platform lift instead, which is a little similar. And so I just wanted to kind of show you the big picture of the costs of things. So the projects I'm proposing to apply for are the areas that I find has the highest public interaction. I think, you know, the town hall, you know, we see the public every day, right? We're there to serve them and they come in when they need something. So I think that's pretty important. Same thing for this COA. Not only does, you know, it serve our seniors, we also do hold meetings there from time to time. So it's important to have, access to that. As well as the police station. I know this is a newer building, so the updates would not be as extensive as some of our other buildings, but there are some areas where we are lacking, like the restrooms, for example. There's some issues with clearance for that. Yes, so these locations all have high public interaction and usability. I also want to note that there are other things in the plan that have no cost to them aside from, labor from someone from maintenance or whoever, like adjusting a door because it's too hard to push. That's something that's an easy fix. So in the meantime, while we decide and apply for a project, we can also work on those other things that are no or low cost to the town and start working towards improving our accessibility there. So those were my recommendations. It is of course up for discussion and what we think is best.
So yeah, I have a question. Can we apply for all three of those proposed projects?
Yes. So that was the idea, is that they want us to submit multiple projects.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah. So they said individually, it's not likely we'll get more than $250,000 total, no matter how many projects we submit. But we can submit for that, but they said it's really not likely.
So great minds think alike, because those are the three, because of the amount, and the police station surprises me that there's anything, but it is what it is. My only question is we have $200,000 on there, rough math. So the old police station right now is being utilized by a lot of people for the food pantry, right? What was it? I didn't remember what the amount was for that one. Do we?
$16,000.
Yes, it was 16.
Yeah. So do we include that? Do we try to get ourselves up to a point of 250? If they say we can get up to $250,000, why don't we go for $250,000? We have a lot of stuff that needs fixing. So I like the idea of right where you have things, but then possibly saying, okay, well, we have about another $50,000. So we include the old police station and then whatever everyone thinks, the town beach, maybe stuff like that, right? So Hathaway Park, right? So yeah, so there's other things that I think, I don't know, does it look like we're trying to be greedy if we include 8 things, or are we better off including 8 things to show?
No, I understand what you're saying. So specifically for the old police station, I didn't include that because I wasn't sure what the greater plan was for that building in the future.
Fair point.
The last thing I would want is I don't want to use the word waste, but not put these funds in, we want to use it wisely, right? Especially because we're a first-time applicant for this implementation grant. We just finished our plan. So we have a good chance of getting something this round. So I just want to make sure we're putting the funds to the best use. And
absolutely. And that's a very valid point. So but then I guess, what else do we include, right? So, to Selectman Lopes' maybe one of these other things that where public are going to. So I just feel like I don't want to leave any money on the table. You've done a lot of hard work, so let's go after every dollar we can.
Yeah, I guess I was a little bit more conservative with that because for the COA, that cost estimate does include an elevator. And I wanted to reach out to a couple companies to get a little more exact estimate, send them pictures of our space specifically. And so that way we know where we're at rather than us getting this grant, we start the process and the cost is higher than anticipated. And then, where does that leave us, right?
Okay, so
that's where I was at. No, I was done. Thanks.
So that's a very valid point based on what you're saying. So if we applied for $129,237 to be applied for the Council on Aging and say it comes back and we spend $150, you're saying then they should hopefully give us the $150? Or are we only applying for exactly what we got as a cost estimate?
So we're only applying for So like whatever is put in the application, that's what you get. Like you can't ask for more. But the idea was the application is due in another month. It's due September 15th, I believe. So I was trying to reach out, and I've already reached out to a couple companies to try and get a more exact estimate for our space, specifically the COA, because I don't want to run into the issue where I requested this amount, but we need more funds, and then we're scrambling to try and find that. I think an elevator would be great for the COA to have, so people don't have to get back in their car, drive to the top or to the bottom to be able to access that space. So that's sort of my thought process behind it. And
this is the first round. Like, so if we do these three this time, right, and then we're not gonna probably get all of them, but best case scenario, we
keep applying.
You just now we're on this right path to kind of address some of these issues.
And I 100% agree with that. And I think, Victoria, you're taking the wheel on this one, right? So do we say, okay, do we agree on an order and then let you cut off or add to as you find fit based on your cost estimates? So that way you're not coming back to us and saying, oh, well, I got, these three and we're still only at 195,000. Should we go, what do you want to go for? So do we kind of come up with, say, 5 and then say, okay, you go up to these 5?
Well, part of it's
that'd be a great idea.
Like, at the same time though, right? Like, each additional one's would be more work for you to put together the proposal, right? Like, there's only so much of Victoria's time.
Yeah,
Like, that's
it's a valid point. I guess I'm just trying. I guess I'm being greedy because of her hard work. Her hard work. I want to be able to see it be utilized. So that's why I'm even saying what I'm saying.
No, I think it's
it makes sense. We're trying to, these grants, you apply for X amount, you only get a certain amount. You don't get the full amount. So maximizing what we put out there for them to read and know, hey, this is what we have, right? They're going to read our plan, but we chose these 3. So I'm assuming we have to apply justification to why those are our top 3 versus everything else, right? So, okay. It's, as things come up, keep applying for them. Is this every year, a yearly thing, or every?
Yes, this is a yearly grant.
Perfect. Okay, so then maybe it does mean just leave it as these top 3, unless someone thinks otherwise. But I think these 3 make the most sense. I agree with her wholeheartedly in that. So,
all right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to choose the top 3 choices as Town Hall, Council on Aging, and Police Station to apply for the ADA transition. Am I saying this right? The ADA transition grant.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right, Victoria, and then. Is that the community compact's best practices? Like what? So
That's Victoria too.
okay, so you're in the hot seat a lot today, Victoria.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with what the community compact is. So I sort of put it up there for you guys to see. So it's a voluntary agreement between the state and the town that the chosen best practices will be implemented. So there are many areas to choose from, such as education, energy, environment, housing, public safety. So it's basically you're saying that the town is dedicated to improving those areas. The agreement runs for 2 years. So we've entered into the community compact one time in 2017. From that we entered into the housing and economic development and created a housing production plan. We also had energy and environment as a best practice and completed the open space and recreation plan. And we also did information technology to develop a regional shared IT services plan as well. And that was completed in 2019. So you can choose 2 best practices. So I'm proposing that we choose public accessibility for the self-evaluation and transition plan. Like I mentioned earlier, this will help increase our grant score. So that would be great. Also, a best practice for resilient, reliable transportation for a multi-year asset management plan. I think you guys are a little bit familiar with what we're doing, what Deb is doing for the water mapping, right, the asset management for that. So I think this would be good to build off of that as well. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's these just kind of adding on to other things we're already, working on, and it also, it's kind of all one cohesive view. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
You must love and hate grants all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's great that we get them, but it is a lot of work for people that don't know. Once you get a grant, there's actually, that was the easy part, getting the grant, maintaining the grant, make sure everything's done on time is very tasking on an individual. So I do applaud you for taking that on, and I know you have quite a bit on your plate, but we do thank you as a town. I'm sure they thank you as well for all the great work you're doing so thank you.
Thank you.
And you too, Deb and Luann and Lola. I know you guys are heavily involved in that as well, so thank you.
Could you just go back one slide? Yeah, just so I can read it, so I can do the motion
sorry.
correctly. Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to go forward with the public accessibility and resilient and reliable transportation community compact best practices, and apply for those.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes.
Yes.
Selectman Zager.
Yes.
Selectman Matthews.
Yes. All right, and our next agenda item here, which is 30, I should have mentioned too, we kind of skipped around, made sense to do after that presentation to go, or the public hearing and the presentation, to just finish those kind of related agenda items. But agenda item 30 is discussion to vote whether to create a commission on disabilities. And so this was also something, it seems like something we should have anyways, right?
I think it helps with the ADA stuff. It would give us, a lot of input, I think, from the public of what we need as a town. I don't know if you've done any work on this.
Yeah, so this will require an article at town meeting to establish.
Okay.
I think it's also good to have a group that is focused on that. As opposed to, we do have an ADA coordinator, and I've also been doing some work, as you see, with this, but it'd be good to have someone to help lead that discussion.
So
That brings that perspective to the table.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to
absolutely.
say.
So I was going to say, so does Carl spearhead this because he's the coordinator of it all? Does he? No, I don't know. I guess how many people get involved? Like, do you have any idea what the typical board size is? Like, what are we going to be trying to?
I think it's different per from town to town. As far as the ADA coordinator's involvement, I think mainly, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's more for if people
complain.
Yeah, people complain, or if they need to find an accessible way of, looking at documents or anything like that. I think that's kind of the avenue they would go to. So as far as who's on the committee, I think it's typically, residents.
Yeah, and I guess that part of it I knew. I was just wondering if we have Carl actively involved in it somehow because of his other role within everything. So I didn't know. So
he's been CC'd on all the stuff going on with so he is aware of what's going on.
It makes sense. And I guess I'm just asking the question for clarification.
Actually, a commission, you try to get people that have disabilities or mobility issues because they bring a different perspective than other people, and it's very helpful for them to educate us. Let's put it that way, because that's what we need, right? We need them to tell us what they need and what's best for them. So that's really what they bring to the table. They bring us education that we then can say, oh, geez, I never thought of that. Let's implement that. If that makes sense, we can facilitate that in this manner. That's really it's just a different perspective that maybe we're not looking at on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll need to get some more details around this of what the statement is, the mission statement.
We can draft the language that if it's an article and
how many?
I think next meeting we're looking at articles. I think so. I think I've put most of the articles off to next meeting for you guys to vote on. So we can draft some language.
It'll be appointed positions, I'm assuming, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Typically.
Does it have to go for a public hearing? Do you know?
I don't believe it's a public hearing. I think it's just a vote, to establish the commission.
Okay.
So should,
Town
yeah, so should we vote, so that's gonna be during the town meeting, but should we, vote on that now, or should we wait till we get the language?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I can get it in front of you guys for the next meeting.
So I'm gonna just wait to vote then? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay, we'll wait and we'll vote on that next time,
So
but
do
that
you
makes
want
a
to
lot of
just
sense.
vote that we'll create it? And
Yeah, okay, let's do that. So, yeah.
I'll hammer out the language.
Okay,
with
perfect. So
Victoria.
I want to entertain a motion to create a commission on disabilities.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or at least bring it out.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes, thank you.
Do you want to clean up that other vote
Yep,
before we move
yep,
on?
yep. So we never actually voted on the
Moving the
placement
agreement.
of retired K-9 Officer Coda or the agreement between the town of Freetown and Thomas Long. So just we signed it, just to vote it. So I'll entertain a motion to vote to place retired K-9 Coda with Sergeant Thomas Long.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. And then 8 is I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement between the town of Freetown and Thomas Long
With the amendments that
with
we
the
made.
amendments, made.
Motion made.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right. Victoria, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.
Did you get through everything?
I think so, right?
We still got a lot of stuff to go in this meeting.
I know.
It's gonna get quick.
Halfway there.
Although
Okay.
Dave Bisson is on Zoom for number 11, I believe, about the solar on the police station.
Okay. All right. So agenda item, so 11 you said?
Yep.
All right. So want to jump to that one then? So this is whether approved signing the letter of intent with Select Energy Development LLC for the solar at the police station on Memorial Drive. And obviously we had a good presentation on this. I think we all know where we are there.
Right. Well, so the roof was leaking. I told you that.
Yeah.
Carl went up on the roof. I sent you pictures, I think,
Yeah.
today. There was some stuff around the vent pipes was all dried up and shrank, I guess. So he had a contractor address that. There was a picture with a nail through the shingle, and I'm like, you should never see nail faces on the exposed part of a roofing shingle.
Yeah.
So I do have concerns about that because they'll always leak. So that probably needs to be patched because it's going to leak. It's just I don't know. But hopefully that was a one-off and not the whole roof because that roof will be leaking everywhere if there's nails on the face of the shingles. And I'll show you, Trevor, when you get to it.
Oh, yeah.
So never should you see a nail head on a roof. So I'm concerned, but I haven't had an in-depth conversation with Carl. We just got this information today. I mean, I will say kudos to Carl because he does. I mean, he was up on that roof himself.
He has pictures to prove it.
He
too.
goes above and beyond. I mean, he's really working hard to keep things moving. But that being said, I think that this letter of intent, if we found major issues with the roof, we obviously wouldn't move forward with any kind of solar on the roof.
Yeah, but I don't know if that prevents us getting the letter of intent going though, right?
Right. I don't know that it does. I mean, I think Dave agrees that they don't want solar because they're going to have to pull it off if we have to repair that roof.
Yeah.
And it just costs them money. And it'll cost us money. But we're not going to put solar on that roof if there's big damage on it. Which I'm hoping that was just a one-off.
I really hope so too.
Yeah.
It's got 47 years left.
It's not a cheap roof, that's for sure.
I know, and it's brand new. To be leaking is scary, right? But hopefully it was just that, and keep up to it. I don't know, Dave, are you on? Can you hear us?
Yes, yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so you just heard me say how the roof is leaking, and I have concerns about. I'm going to look further into it. I just got the information today from the building commissioner. There was some venting pipes that obviously needed to be resealed. I don't know how properly they were flashed, but and there was a nail. I think a nail's through the face of the roof and shingles, so that will always leak. So I think we need to do a little further investigation, or I need to have another conversation at least with Carl. but
Yeah, but I mean, if we want to get this right, the block here, what, you know,
yeah.
I think we should get a letter of intent going forward, and then, you know, if we can't do it, we can't do it because of the physical like restriction of the roof. But I think it still makes sense to move forward right now.
Right, especially seeing the roof's got another 47 change years left.
Yeah.
It'll be fixed.
Yeah. All right. So anything else, Dave, you want to add before I call a vote on this?
No, that all sounds reasonable. Like Deb said, you know, we wouldn't want to install on it either if we think there's any issues that are going to arise in the next 25 years. But hopefully that can all, you know, be sorted out well before we're ready to install, which won't be, you know, probably until next year.
Okay.
Since we're doing the canopy with it.
Perfect. All right. You guys good?
I'm
All right.
good. Man.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve signing letter of intent with Select Energy Development LLC for the solar at the police station on Memorial Drive.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to jump back to agenda item 9.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just the location for the special town meeting on 10/23/2023, 7 p.m. at Apponequet Regional High School Auditorium as the first choice since the middle school was not available. Is everyone good with that?
Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to, I guess I just have to make a motion to confirm it.
Yes.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to confirm the location for the special town meeting on 10/23/2023 at 7 p.m. is the Apponequet Regional High School auditorium.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. Now we just have the approved, just the agreement between the town of Freetown and Carlton E. Abbott Jr. effective August 22, 2023 through October 11th, 2023. And I know this is just some slight change to the language there.
Yeah, it's just more of an independent contractor because he's going to pursue other consulting type jobs.
Yep.
So treating him more as an independent
Are we
contractor.
1099ing him or something?
Yes,
Yeah.
as opposed to.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement between the town of Freetown and Carlton E. Abbott Jr., effective August 22nd, 2023 through October 11th, 2023.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right, now jump down to it. Agenda item 12. This is just, I'll entertain a motion to approve town administrator to sign documents with Select Energy Development LLC.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes, thank you. All right, now we have road opening permits for Memorial Drive and Kelly Drive, and Quantipoc Road for road improvements. Anyone have any issues with those?
No.
All right,
Memorial Drive is the crosswalk that we're working on, and Kelly Drive is rebuilding a shoulder of the road. I think there's drainage issues.
all right, perfect. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the road opening permits for Memorial Drive and Kelly Drive / Quantipoc Road for roadway improvements.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right. Now we have a write-off approval for the police in the amount of $911.10. I'll entertain a motion to approve that write-off request.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. Ambulance abatements and write-offs. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the ambulance abatements and write-offs for the month of July 2023 for the amount of $91,343.18.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. Sewer line extension committee. I think we should do that.
Sewer line or the committee?
Sewer line, both. Sewer line extension committee. Would this also have to be something that goes? No.
This would be just a subcommittee. I talked to the sewer commission. They're okay with it because obviously the sewer lines come under their jurisdiction. So I didn't want to step on their toes. I wanted to make sure. But this is, has a little piece of planning to it, a little piece of economic development to it, because the sewer line and where it goes and what we're doing with it. in our future, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So I think that having myself, Victoria, maybe somebody from an economic development, and somebody from the sewer line we would bring different perspectives to the table and help guide this, because this is laying out the sewer line and permitting it. So once this piece is done, it's done. Like there's not going to be changing the sewer line or changing. Are we going to plan to pick up Simpson Lane? Are we going to plan to pick up the lane?
Yeah, figure out phasing,
right?
all that kind
and
of
I
stuff.
think there's a little more perspective that needs to go into it in terms of what I can just give or what the sewer commissioners can give. I really like Victoria to be involved. She's the planner of the town in terms of continuity and what's going on. She needs to be involved, and maybe even the Board of Health moving forward, because we know that our septics are on the water a lot of that area of town, and that it's in 20 or 25 years from now, it may be imperative that we have sewer supplying some of those properties. So I just think it's a good idea in some of these decisions to have a subcommittee that has some different knowledge and different perspectives and bring them to the table.
Yeah.
So do we have to determine the makeup of it right now as far as the
I
amount
can
of
probably
people?
draft something. I kind of have it in my head what
All right, so I say let's just vote now and then we have
come
another vote
back
on the
to it.
makeup of
I'll
it.
bring you the
All right,
charge.
perfect. All right,
Thank
so
you.
I'll entertain a motion to create a sewer line extension committee.
A motion made?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right. Next is discussion and vote whether to approve Caroline Sadler, a yoga teacher, to host yoga classes at the town beach. I'm cool with that.
This was a request. She will be charging. It's a request from her, but I bet there would be a lot of interest.
Yeah, this is what we should be doing with our public spaces, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So does she have to sign anything liability wise?
So I think we did. Did we get her a waiver and insurance? Right, we asked for insurance certificate, which she has provided to us, and we sent over a waiver. Have we done that yet? Because Lola was working on this.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that the people will come and sign a waiver.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
In regards to the parking, is it only open to town residents, or can anyone come, and is that going to be problematic?
Good point.
That's a good point. Because right now the
I mean, I don't have a
beach
problem
is
with it,
just
I don't want somebody to come for a yoga class and get a ticket.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, I would hope that they're, I don't know, that stuff.
I mean,
do we have something that they could put on a car?
You want to restrict it to Freetown residents?
no. Because they've someone carpools there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but what if, you get someone who lives in Lakeville that's coming over for it,
We
want to
could-
make it.
Possibly just let the police department know when these
Yeah.
classes are
I
taking
was just-
place, and that we wouldn't ticket between those times.
Yeah,
It's a good idea.
Tuesday and Thursday, Lola? Was it Tuesday and Thursday?
Yes.
It says early evenings.
Yeah, like Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock at night, or something like that. It's only through like a short period of time,
Correct, till probably into September.
like September and
Okay.
October.
All right. Yeah.
See
If it comes to an issue,
take it from there.
Yeah.
We'll readdress
And we
it.
also usually lock the gate. So how's the gate getting open and closed?
We voted to extend the gate.
Is it good through October?
I think it was
Okay.
through October.
So then that won't be an issue.
okay. Yeah. And if it comes to an issue, we'll deal with it. But I don't imagine it
We
being.
can check on that, but I know we
Yeah,
voted.
I just want to make
All
sure
right.
that
That's
they
good.
don't
I'm
show
happy you
up
brought it
at
up, but let's hope it's not. We'll communicate with the police. All right. So that I'll entertain a motion to approve Caroline Sadler, a yoga instructor, to host yoga classes at the town beach.
Motion made?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. All right. Now, agenda item 18. That's going over to personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item agenda number 18, acknowledge the resignation of Cheryl Quinlan, effective 8/4/2023, as recording clerk for Building Committee, Council of Aging, Library Committee, Building Committee, Economic Development Committee, and Finance Committee. Thank you for your time, Cheryl. We appreciate everything you did. Item agenda number 19, acknowledge recognition of Paula Cretion. We'll go with that. Thank you, Paula, for all your work you put for us. Item agenda number 20, acknowledge the disclosure form submitted by Nick Veloso. Nick is the chairman of the gosh, I'm drawing a blank. He is the zoning board of appeals, and he had family members on the fire subcommittee, fire station building subcommittee, and he just disclosed that to the town clerk. So thank you, Nick, for doing the right thing. Item agenda 21, discussion and vote on whether to approve the memorandum of agreement, MOA, between the town of Freetown and the Freetown Employees Association to increase the van driver step 1 starting at $15 an hour, effective 7/1/2023. For those of you that follow along every week or every 2 weeks, we have increased the minimum of our employees' salaries or pay to $15 an hour to be consistent to minimum wage for the state of Massachusetts. And turns out we forgot one. So thank you for all our van drivers. And I entertain the motion to approve the memorandum of agreement MOA between the town of Freetown and Freetown Employees Association to increase the van driver step 1 starting $15 an hour, effective 7/1/2023.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes.
I think you can skip 22 because he is appointed as a consultant. It's just we changed the way we're going to pay him. I think it doesn't really need
Say
to.
independent contractor now
I mean, I'm a
versus he
consultant.
was a consultant.
I'm a consultant and an independent contractor. I use those terms interchangeably.
Yeah, I
I don't know if there's a technical difference between the two. 'Cause I was.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it.
No.
Well, we can it's just there's no voting. We just rescind it, keep it clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're going to reappoint him.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You're just
we have to
you signed a
reappoint him.
contract and agreed to it already tonight.
Yeah, item agenda 10.
Yes, but
discussed.
I worked for Hanson. I still had to be appointed even though I was an independent contractor.
But
And I
other
still had to
independent
be sworn
contractors,
in.
like our videographer, we don't appoint them. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like maybe we did appoint him. Maybe not.
so we just leave it alone.
John, were you
for now?
appointed?
Leave it.
That way we don't.
Yes, he was.
Let's nix it for now, and then if we have to go and clean it up, then we do. But,
Yeah.
I mean, what if we
Don't need to
do
rescind
this
this.
and then he can't work? I don't know.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is that. I'm not sure we're doing the right
Bring it
thing.
along.
So just not touch it for now and then.
So we will, for tonight's meeting, we will remove 22 from the agenda and continue on to item agenda 23. Discussion and vote on whether to authorize Lieutenant Benjamin Levesque, Ben, to sign payroll and bills in the absence of the police chief. I'm sure he wants nothing more than this responsibility. But it makes sense. He's the second one in command. It makes sense that chief goes on vacation or, God forbid, he's ill, that he can't sign payroll. It makes sense having a backup.
Yep, absolutely.
It's good
Totally
working
agree.
business. I entertain the motion to authorize Lieutenant Benjamin Levesque to sign payroll and bills in the absence of the police chief.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then agenda
Wait,
24.
hold on.
Selectman
Roll.
Lopes?
Yes.
All right.
Selectman Zager?
Good
Yes.
catch.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. Good catch. All right.
All right, number 24, discussion and vote on compensation for staff covering boat ramp season. Maybe
It's for next year.
This is actually for the current year because Luann's gonna probably curl up over there. But you know, our community program director resigned. He was in charge of the boat ramp. So then, of course, Luann took it over as Luann jumps in whenever we need help. She's first one to sign up, although she wasn't so happy about doing it. She's doing it. And this weekend, she couldn't do it on Saturday. And I can tell you, I was like, oh, it's really no big deal. They call you once or twice a day. You might have to run down there. But after having to actually do it, I was like, oh, I want to go here, but I can't because what if they call me? I need to be on
yeah,
call.
no, you're married.
So you're on call every single weekend after working all week, which you know we don't work a 40-hour week. Luann works at least 40 hours a week, if not usually more. And then all weekend she can't go anywhere because she's on things. So I think it deserves compensation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wasn't. We probably needed to do an MOA to an agreement, but I just feel like she should be paid for her weekends. I don't know exactly how many weekends it has been, but she's managing the staff down there. She's diligently going there. She's on top of it.
Without complaining.
And I'm glad because I don't want to be the one responsible to do it. So I think she should be paid for her time.
Absolutely, at no point should anyone be doing work for free.
I mean, it's
Right,
not
we're
in
not.
her normal realm of duties
Yeah.
at the in the office. So
So, yeah, I mean, I guess, so my thing is okay, we'll have to come up with an MOA and stuff, but do we try and hash out what we think is a response, what an effective pay is? Do we just do it as a weekend, every weekend, X amount of dollars? Do we?
That's what I'm thinking, but I don't have a dollar figure, but I will tell you that,
And then what do
Jeff
we have
said
in the budget?
it was 19 hours a week. And he said it wasn't enough to manage the boat ramp effectively.
Yeah.
I know Luann doesn't have that kind of time to put into it because she's, and I know I'm talking like she's not here because I know this if it makes her feel awkward. So, you know.
Her union representative.
Yes, yes. Well, you know, I guess we have to value people that are going above and
absolutely.
beyond. She could have said like, hey, it's not in my job description. I'm not doing it. She would never say that. And like I said, having to do it one day and nobody called me. I didn't have any issues.
But it's just like it's the fact that you can't just go down, go grab dinner somewhere or like whatever, it makes it more.
Or I'm going to go to Martha's Vineyard for the weekend.
Yeah.
Oh no, if they call me at the boat ramp, I can't get there. So it really is, it's valuable. And the fact that she jumped in without even talking about, she didn't ask me for compensation.
Yeah.
She just said, I'll do it, Deb. I'll take care of it. That's valuable, right? So I think we should value our employees. I can work on a number and come back with it because she's going to need an amendment to her agreement, most likely to pay her.
Yeah, I'm not speaking for anyone else. I'm going to say I'm 100% pro doing this because thank you, Luann. To your point, no one else wants to do it, and so let's.
I don't think she wants to do it.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Not really.
Yeah. So, but you deserve, at the very least, deserve to get something for it. So then, my only other question is money in the budget to pay her. Do we have enough so that we're not trying?
What was going to be paid to?
Yeah, we have money in the revolving fund of the boat ramp, right? So that's where it would come from. I'm sure I can check the figures, but I think we should have money in the boat.
If we have the money and the ability, I am 100% pro.
Yeah.
So that actually comes out of the boat ramp proceeds, right? So people realize it's not coming out of our tax dollars. It's coming out of the boat ramp from, paying attendance and people to work at the boat ramp from the monies we collect there.
Right. This isn't the first time we've done this either. Like I think a year or two ago, we voted on doing the same thing for compensation for working the extra hours at the boat ramp. So this is right in line with what we've consistently done: pay our employees what they're worth, and time is money. And unfortunately, time is being spent away from family on the weekends when it should be your relaxing time. So compensation is well deserved and earned.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it was brought up.
So I think we'll vote on moving forward with that, and then once you guys have the MOA, that will contain the money, and then we can
Ask one question?
Yes.
Are we planning to fill the community program director's position so that we can hand this off to someone new?
That's what I was thinking too. That was my next part. It's like it's a really so we should be actively trying to find that person, and then so as a part of your compensate, being compensated. Like once we get that new person, then they'll start, and then that will end, right? It's just like those weekends that you do work
Because
that.
you do manage the kiosk as year-round management of it because it does collect fees all year long. So we can hand it off to
But we do need to move forward and hire somebody, try to get someone to do that role.
Yeah, so we should work on, we have the terminology for the job, right? Because we hired Jeff.
Yeah,
under it,
I
so
think we
could-
probably have to circle back a little bit because, my idea of what I thought a community program director, yes, we gave him the boat ramp, but it's also to do programming for the town as a whole, on our beach, on our parks, using our resources, having events to make us feel more like a community, right? Maybe we can wrap the boat ramp into conservation or somebody, we have the attendants that deal with the gates. I don't know. I think we need to think a little bit about it. And because the boat ramp is unique, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And so I think that's what happened. It's full-time. It ends up consuming you, put it that way. So we have to recircle what the best approach is. I think I'll work on that with Luann, and we'll probably circle back to you and the board. But we can post for what we had for a job description and get that started.
Okay.
Yeah, so we
do
can
we have
work.
anybody else that we interviewed that was there, right? I think we.
You never know; those people get jobs too. We'll have to read those.
Yeah. So All right, so we'll do that. We'll have to come up with Deb will come up with a compensation level. We can get the job posted. So there's obviously, a good amount of behind the scenes work that'll have to happen, but, and no one has any questions or concerns with obviously doing this, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so, all right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion that we, compensate going forward. And well, actually, so here's one of the caveat, back pay for, she's been doing this for however many weeks, so I don't want to say going forward, right? So let's,
Just for compensation for weekends.
So, I'll entertain a motion that we compensate Luann for, weekends worked as well as weekends going forward for, covering the boat ramp seasons.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. And I think we are just gonna sign and then you'll adjourn.
Did they vote? Did they vote for me to sign?
Yes.
They did?
It's on
Sign.
That is it.
Making me think. Number 11, I think. This is Carlton's agreement. There are 3 copies.
Select Energy, we definitely did that.
You voted to have me sign it?
Yep.
It's number 11.
Where is your headset?
I don't know. I'm trying to tell us we're going to get through.
This one he knows.
My wife's texting me. Come back tonight. She's just getting home from football. Kids play
That's
football.
authorizing Deb to sign select.
I don't know that. Let me just verify that we even need to sign this one. There's only a spot for Trevor to sign.
Permits.
I think we've been fine. When these 3, we only have a spot for Trevor. Do you want us to sign on the side of them?
No, it's
Do we
not
know?
necessary. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, just out of habit, just send
Yeah,
it
no,
down.
I'd rather ask.
This is the road opening permits for Quantified Kelly. I added lines for the other just like so.
I'll just sign anywhere, like right here.
I'm okay with getting it and not having to.
On these 2, there's a line that I put in for each
There's
of you.
a new line.
These are the
Thank you.
town's projects.
This is the police department. Right up.
Yes. I'm just. Yeah, there you
It's your MOA for the van driver. Adoption of the AD self-evaluation. That's that.
All right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectman Lopes.
Yes.
Selectman Zager.
Yes.
Selectman Matthews.
Yes.